Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's time for some more spooky stories. As usual, we got some nice stories lined up from Zombie, but before we start that, it's time for some yappers. Gonna just chill around for a tiny bit, so there's no real, there's no hurry. We got a little bit, like 15 minutes to 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes until we actually begin the yaps. So we're going to be waiting a tiny bit. Don't worry about it. So enjoy the relaxation for now, because we will soon begin. I'll have to do some stuff in the background as well. I have to make sure that everything is set up so that there's nothing weird, nothing that can get me completely dead. But we'll see. There's also some stuff that I still need to set up properly, that I don't do dumb things. There we go. Funniest part is, this time, you will see me as a rat. Bink! If my camera wants to work. Hey! What's good? The rat is here. I am the rat. I'll do this real quick. That's the wrong one. Ding, ding, bonk. That's better for that. Do that. Close that. Close that. Bingo. Of course, you already saw something in the background, but that's fine. That's fine. Give me a pen. I'm gonna grab this pen. I'm actually set up correctly. Yes, I am. Zip. Where do I want to put this? I'm gonna put it right here. Gonna be like, how do we do this? I'll do it this way. This is the funky way that I can do it. Yes, I know. This is really funky on how I'm doing this. This hurts me. This hurts my soul, physically. Ah. There we go. Ah, that'll do. That'll just... make it like that. I'll make the little creature confused. That'll do. There we go. What the hell have I even done? I am so freaking dumb. Wait, hold on. Pink. There we go. And none of it is even balanced. Or actually, it is, weirdly. Wait, no, it's not. Ah, it's whatever. Good morning. Good morning. I have no clue what the hell I'm doing because I swap immediately to different things. I could have just made those like squares. Wait, hold on. Let me try something real quick. I'm gonna try something. Hold up. Whip. Hold up. Zip. Zip, zip. I'm gonna just erase all of this. There we go. Let's try that again. I have an idea. I know how to do this. Do like that. Then we do one more. And then it's just like, yeah, that could work. It could work like that. Yeah. But I feel like that would be better if I did it where, in a way, like, just gonna test some styles out real quick. If I did it like this instead. Hold up. Something like that. I could do it like that. That's not really the best. Wow, I'm having graffiti lessons immediately from the beginning, and I'm just like, I don't know how I could actually... Hold on. What is the best way I could do a G? What is the coolest G I could do? Because there's so many ways you can do it. You can make it like really bubbly. Some people do it like Wait, that's not bubbly. What am I doing? Hold up. Some people would do something like that. Then there's the type who do... What's an even better one? It's like... Some people do it like that. Some people literally do G as a... How would I do this? Something like that. I don't know. People do it in a weird way. I've seen a lot of different ways that people do it, but I can't emulate it properly for some reason. I don't know why. There's so many different ways you could do it. There's no real, like, correct way. You could just do it kind of in any way you want. As long as you remain consistent. Because my handwriting has always been shit. So if I fucking have to write G... How do I even write G? That's how I would do a G, to be honest. Some people would do it like that. I don't know. I was taught cursive in school, but I never really gave two damns about it. So my scribbling and writing, like actually using like a pen, is completely non-existent. I think it was like, they told me to just do it that way. That's like the original G. And then you got the stick G, which just... That looks like a 6. Man, writing is hard. That's why I enjoy just doodling things instead. Like that. And then just... If you're backwards, you just gotta give it a little... Ta-da! Of course, there's a lot of people who would like, if they were like, let's say, write Rob, they'd be like... They'd do something like that. Of course, you can make it more stylistic by adding in like little pieces of like shine or something, and just be like, voomp. Like that. That already makes it look a little bit better. But even then, it's weird. I don't know why I'm giving you graffiti lessons and writing lessons from the beginning while I'm waiting for everything to get started. if I had to write horror, normally it would be like... I think that's the most horrific thing I can write, like that. That's definitely not gonna work. Better put the eraser. There is a way to do the H in a very funny fashion that I saw somebody doing, which is the box style, where they just do this. They put that down and they lift it from there. I didn't do it this way. That's how some people would do it with the box style. I don't know why I'm doing graffiti like this and just explaining how it works, but some people do it that way. Then you have... I wish I had VR so I could do the proper way where I do it with my hands. But unfortunately I don't, so I can't really, you know, quickly do it. Plus using a pen is... Because the most common thing that I do is if you look at that H, it almost looks like an N. Because if you do a H in graffiti style, you're like... That would be something. And then some people add that. Like that. Me, I tend to just go... Or if I want to be more cursive... There's hardly any difference. Also, I screwed those up because my hand moved in a weird way. I don't know. I'm still trying to learn. I'm learning, and I have to relearn everything because I'm stuck on Desky mode. Arr, gar, 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 gar. The rat's angry. Angry rat. But if I have to write it in a normal way where I've always written it, can I even write this in like... That would be the way that we were taught in school, with the old cursive, or the new cursive. There's so many different ways to writing. Hands in cursive. Wow, I love that if I close my hand, it just loses everything, especially if I point it forward. Wait, is it as soon as I put my middle finger down? Why is it the middle finger that causes it to go down? What? I'm learning new things. Oh, the horrors. You know what? There you go. That's true horror right there. All right. Let's look at the clock. You know what? Honk, honk. What is that? Alright, don't care about the deep sleep stuff. Why the hell was it asking me about, like, oh, these apps will be put into deep sleep. Good, put them into deep sleep. I ain't using them. I don't need notifications nor updates or anything else about them. Anyways, let's go. Bink! And just fucking ding! Bam, 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 do, da, 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 bow, 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 bow. I love this music. Would you like to, load in? Connecting. Oh, it's from Lucifer Morningstar. Huh, that's a familiar name. It would appear that my arrival has killed the zombie. Huh. Ooh. Hey, this is really pretty. Hold up. I forgot. There we go. What is that? Is that a flare? Hold up. That's a plane. Okay, yeah, that's a plane. Oh! Hey, this is really pretty. And cool. It would seem that EAC has struck zombie. Seems that they still haven't fixed that issue. What's down here? Okay. That's a cool... This is a cool idea. I'd be scared to have the projector there, though. I will bolt it to the top instead. Oh, can't go further down. Okay, that's fine. More than enough. I appreciate having the wire fence here, even if it isn't perfectly there, but that's fine because over time it would actually break off. But just having a little bit of that is more than enough to actually make somebody comfortable. Even with this wire, like you see this wire right here, this is more than enough to make me feel safe if I would have to go up. What is that? Hold up. I see a campfire over there. I don't think that was meant to happen. Huh. Interesting. What is this? Heavy udon content. Bob Ross. Oh my god, those rocks. We're just gonna have to wait until Zoms has reconnected. We also got Zaw. Some radio stuff. Let's try them again. Bink! Round 2. Bingor.
Hi, how are ya?
Hi, how are you? Gotta love EAC. The true horror of VR chat.
Yeah, I fucking hate EAC. God.
I hate it when it doesn't want to work correctly.
I know, dude.
It's been going on this the entire week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yesterday was fine, weirdly enough. I didn't see it happening at all. But the day before that, it was happening, like, every half an hour or so. So something is happening with their systems.
Yeah.
And I think it's not VRChat's fault itself, it's EAC's fault.
Yes, it is. Because that's totally something we needed. Easy anti-cheat.
Blame the investors. At least it's EAC and nothing else. Could have been worse, could have been Game God.
Yeah. Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. Alright, welcome back to the fucking Midnight Zone, gang. I am your host, Nina the Killer. I'm gonna read some fucking scary stories tonight. I'm very excited because it's gonna be some pretty cool stories on the list tonight. I got No End House, and I also have another one, surprise! The Disappearance of Ashley, Kansas. It's one of my favorites. It's a very classic creepypasta.
That one I haven't actually read.
Exactly. I actually came across the Ashley Kansas story from the channel Dead Meat. Shameless plug. I fucking love their content. Please, please go watch them, chat. They're so good.
Go check out Dead Meat.
Alright, gang. So let's get our snacks and let's get comfortable and let's get
Snacks?
right in here. Yes, snacks. So
I got
first
Pringles.
I will be reading... Nice. First I will be reading No End House. It is a bit of a longer story, but I'm confident that I can get through it within the time that we have. Alright. Funnily enough, this story was posted 8 years ago, and it still holds up pretty well, I'd say. Alright.
Hell yeah.
Bink, bink, bink. Alright. This is No End House. Let me start by saying that Peter Terry was addicted to heroin. we were friends in college and continue to be after I graduated. Notice that I said I. He dropped out after about 2 years of barely cutting it. After I moved out of the dorms and into a small apartment, I didn't see Peter as much. We would talk online every now and then. AIM was king in pre-Facebook years. There was a period where he wasn't online for about 5 weeks straight. I mean, I wasn't worried. It's kind of the thing that he just did. He was a pretty notorious flake and a drug addict, so I assumed he just stopped caring. Then one night, I saw him log on. Before I could even initiate a conversation, he sent me a message. David, man, we need to talk. That was when he told me about the No End House. It got that name because no one had ever reached the final exit. The rules were pretty simple and cliche, albeit. Reach the final room of the building and you win $500. Big whoop. There were 9 rooms in all. The house was located outside the city, roughly 4 miles from my house. Apparently, Peter had tried and failed. He was a heroin and who knows what the fuck else addict, so I figured the drugs just got the best of him and he wigged out at like a paper ghost or something. He told me it would be too much for anyone, that it was unnatural. I told him I would check it out the next night, and no matter how hard he tried to convince me otherwise, $500 sounded too good to be true. How? So I the phone. When I arrived, I immediately noticed something strange about the building. Have you ever seen or read something that shouldn't be scary, but for some reason a cold chill crawls up your spine? I walked toward the building, and the feeling of uneasiness only intensified as I opened the door. My heartbeat slowed, and I let a relieved sigh leave me as I entered. The room looked like a normal hotel lobby decorated for Halloween. A sign was posted in place of a worker. It read, quote, "Room 1 this way, 8 more to follow. Reach the end and you win." I chuckled and made my way to the first tour. The first area was almost laughable. The decor resembled the Halloween aisle of like a Kmart or some other big supermarket, complete with sheet ghosts and animatronic zombies that gave a static growl when you passed by. The far end was an exit. It was the only door besides the one I entered through. I brushed through the fake spiderwebs and headed for the second room. I was greeted by fog as I opened the door to room 2. The room was definitely upped the ante in terms of technology. Not only was there a fog machine, but a bat hung from the ceiling and flew in a little circle. Ooh, scary. They seemed to have a Halloween soundtrack that one would find in like a 99-cent store on loop somewhere in the room. I didn't see a stereo, but I guess they must have had a PA system or something like that. I stepped over a few toy rats that wheeled around and walked with a puffed chest across to the next area. I reached for the doorknob and my heart sank to my knees. I did not want to open that door. A feeling of dread hit me so hard I could barely even think. Logic overtook me after a few terrified moments, and I shook it off and entered the next room anyways. Room 3 is when things began to change. On the surface, it looked like a normal room. There was a chair in the middle of the wood-paneled floor, a single lamp in the corner that did a poor job lighting the area, casting a few shadows across the floor and the walls. That was the problem. Shadows. Plural. With the exception of the chairs, which there were others. I had barely even walked in the door and I was already terrified. It was at that moment I knew something just wasn't right. I didn't even think as I automatically tried to open the door I came through. It was locked from the other side. That immediately set me off. Was someone locking the doors as I progressed? There was no way. I would have heard them, surely. Was it a mechanical lock that set automatically? Maybe, but it seemed a bit excessive. Regardless, I was too scared to think, really. I turned back to the room and the shadows were gone. The chair's shadow remained, but the others were gone. Slowly, I began to walk. I used to hallucinate when I was a kid, so I wrote off the shadows as some figment of my imagination, crawling back up to the surface just to toy with me. I began to feel better as I made it to the whole halfway point of the room. Suddenly, I looked down as I took my steps, and that's when I saw it. Or rather, didn't see it. My shadow wasn't there. I didn't have time to scream. I ran as fast as I could to the other door and flung myself without thinking into the room beyond. The fourth room was possibly the most disturbing. As I closed the door, all light seemed to be sucked out, put back into this previous room. I stood there, surrounded by darkness, not able to move. I'm not afraid of the dark, and never have been, but I was absolutely terrified. Every ounce of sight had left me. I held my hand in front of my face, and if I didn't know what I was doing, I would never have been able to tell. Darkness, couldn't even describe it. I couldn't hear anything. It was dead. Silence. When you're in a soundproof room, you can still hear yourself breathing. You can hear yourself being alive. In that room, I couldn't. Began to stumble forward after a few moments, my rapidly beating heart the only thing I could feel. There was no door in sight. I wasn't even sure there was one this time. The silence was then broken by a low hum. I felt something behind me. I spun around wildly, but I could barely even see my own nose. I knew it was there, though. I knew it. Regardless of how dark it was, I knew something had to be there. The hum grew louder, closer. It seemed to surround me, but I knew whatever was causing the noise was right in front of me, inching closer. I took a step back. I had never felt that kind of fear before. It was jarring. I can't really describe true fear. I wasn't even scared I was going to die. I was scared of what the alternative was. What could possibly in store for me in the darkness? And then the lights flashed for a second, and I saw it. Nothing. I saw nothing. And I know I saw nothing there. The room was again plunged into darkness, and the hum became a wild screech. I screamed in protest. I couldn't hear this goddamn sound for another minute. I ran backwards, away from the noise, and fumbled for the door handle. I turned and fell into room 5. Before I describe room 5, you have to understand something. I am not a drug addict. I have had no history of drug abuse or any sort of psychosis short of the childhood hallucinations I mentioned earlier, and those were only when I was really tired or just waking up. I entered the no-end house with a clear head, I am sure of it. After falling into the previous room, my view of room 5 from my back was just looking up at the ceiling. What I saw didn't scare me, it simply surprised me. Trees had grown into the room and towered above my head. The ceilings in this room were taller than the others, which made me think that I was in the center of the house. I got up off the floor, dusted myself off, and took a look around. It's definitely the biggest room of them all. Couldn't even see the door from where I was. Various brush and trees must have blocked my line of sight with the exit. Up to this point, I figured the rooms were going to get scarier, but this was a paradise compared to the last room. Oh, God. I also assumed whatever was in room 4 stayed back there. I was incredibly wrong. As I made my way deeper into the room, I began to hear what one would hear if they were in a forest. Chirping bugs, the occasional flap of birds seemed to be my only company in this room. That was the thing that bothered me the most. I heard the bugs and other animals, but I didn't see any of them. I began to wonder just how big this house was. From the outside, when I first walked up to it, it looked like a regular house. Sure, it was definitely on the bigger side, but this was almost a full forest in here. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if I had seen a range of mountains off in the distance somewhere. The canopy covered my view of the ceiling, but I assumed it was still there, however high it was. Couldn't see any walls either. The only way I knew I was still inside was that the floor matched the other rooms. Standard dark wood paneling. I kept walking, hoping that the next tree I passed would reveal the door. After a few moments of walking, I felt a mosquito fly onto my arm. I shook it off and kept going. A second later, I felt about 10 more land on my skin at different places. I felt them crawl up and down my arms and legs, and a few made their way across my face. I flailed wildly to get them all off, but they just kept crawling. I looked down and let out a muffled scream, more of a whimper, to be honest. I didn't see a single bug. Not one bug was on me, but I could feel them crawl. I heard them fly by my face. I sting my skin, but I couldn't see a single one. I dropped to the ground and began to roll around wildly. I was desperate. I hated bugs, especially ones I couldn't see or even touch. But these bugs could touch me, and they were everywhere. Quickly, I began to crawl. I had no idea where I was going. The entrance was nowhere in sight, and I still hadn't seen the exit. So I just crawled, my skin wriggling with the presence of those phantom bugs. After what seemed like hours, I found the fucking door, finally. Grabbed the nearest tree and propped myself up, mindlessly slapping my arms and legs to no avail. Tried to run, but I just couldn't. My body was exhausted from crawling and dealing with whatever it was that was on me. Took a few shaky steps to the door, grabbing each tree on the way for support. I was only a few feet away when I heard it. The low hum from before. It was coming from the next room, and it was deeper. I could almost feel it inside my body, like when you stand next to an amp at a concert. Feeling of the bugs lessened as the hum grew louder. As I placed my hand on the doorknob, the bugs were completely gone, but I just couldn't bring myself to turn the knob. I knew that if I let go, the bugs would return, and there was no way I would make it back to room 4. I just stood there, my head pressed against the door, marked 6 in my hand, shakily grasping the knob. The hum was so loud I couldn't even hear myself pretend to think. There was nothing I could do but move on. Room 6 was next, and room 6 was hell. I closed the door behind me, my eyes held shut, my ears ringing. The hum was surrounding me completely. As the door clicked into place, the hum was gone. I opened my eyes in surprise, and the door I had shut was gone. It was just a wall now. I looked around in shock. The room was identical to room 3. The same chair and lamp, but with the correct amount of shadows this time. The only real difference was that there was no exit door. And the one that I came through in was gone. As I said before, I had no previous issues in terms of mental instability, but at that moment I fell into what I now know was insanity. I didn't scream. I didn't make a sound. First, I scratched softly. The wall was tough, but I knew the door was there somewhere. I just knew it was. I scratched at where the doorknob was. I clawed at the walls frantically with both hands, my nails being filed down to the skin against the wood. I fell silently to my knees. The only sound in the room was the incessant scratching against the wall. I knew it was there. The door was there. I knew it was just there. I knew if I could just get past this wall. Are you alright? I jumped off the ground and spun in one motion. I leaned against the wall behind me and I saw what it was that spoke to me. To this day, God, I regret ever turning around. There was
Yes. Spooky
a
stories.
little girl. She was wearing a soft white dress that went down to her ankles. She had long, blonde hair to the middle of her back, white skin, blue eyes. She was the most frightening thing I had ever seen. And I know that nothing in my life will ever be as nerving as what I saw in her. While looking at her, I saw something else. Where she stood, I saw what looked like a man's body, only larger than normal and covered in hair. He was naked from head to toe, but his head was not human. His toes were hooves. It wasn't the devil, but at that moment it might as well have been. The form of the head of a ram, the snout of a wolf. It was horrifying. It was synonymous with the little girl in front of me. That they were the same form. I can't really describe it, but I saw them at the same time. They shared the same spot in that room. It was like looking at 2 separate dimensions. When I saw the little girl, I saw the form, and when I saw the form, I saw the girl. I couldn't speak. I could barely even see. My mind was revolting against what it was attempting to process. I'd been scared before in my life, and I had never been more scared than when I was trapped in the 4th room. But that was before room 6. I just stood there, staring at whatever the hell it was that spoke to me. There was no exit. I was trapped here with it. And then it spoke again.
David, you should have listened.
When it spoke, I heard the words of the little girl, but the other form spoke through my mind in a voice I won't even attempt to describe. There was no other sound. The voice just kept repeating that sentence over and over in my mind, and I agreed. I didn't know what I was to do. I was slipping into madness, and yet I couldn't take my eyes off a fucking thing that was in front of me. I dropped to the floor. I thought I had passed out, but the room wouldn't let me. Just wanted it to end. I was on my side, my eyes wide open, and the form was staring down at me. She Scurrying across the floor in front of me was one of the battery-powered rats from the second room. The house was toying with me. For some reason, seeing that rat pulled my mind back from whatever depths it was headed, and I looked around the room. I was getting out of there. I was determined to get out of that house and leave, and just never think about this place ever again. I knew this room was hell, and I wasn't ready to take up a residency. First, it was just my eyes that moved. I searched the walls for any kind of opening. The room wasn't that big, so it didn't take long to choke up the entire layout. The demon still taunted me, voice growing louder as the form stayed rooted where it stood. I placed my hand on the floor and lifted myself up to all fours. I turned to scan the wall behind me. Then, I saw something I couldn't believe. The form was now right at my back, whispering into my mind how I shouldn't have come. I felt its breath on the back of my neck, but I refused to turn around. A large rectangle was scratched into the wood with a small dent chipped away in the center of it. Right in front of my eyes, I saw the large 7 I had mindlessly etched into the wall. I knew what it was. Room 7, just beyond that wall where room 5 was months ago. I don't know how I had done it. Maybe it was just the state of my mind at the time. But I had created the door. I knew I had. In my madness, I scratched into the wall what I needed the most. An exit to the next room. Room 7 was closed. I knew the demon was right behind me, but for some reason, it couldn't touch me. I closed my eyes and placed both hands on the large 7 in front of me. I pushed as hard as I could. The demon was now screaming in my ear. It told me I was never leaving. It told me this was the end. That I wasn't going to die. I was going to live there in room 6 with it. I wasn't. I pushed and screamed at the top of my lungs. I knew I was going to push through the wall eventually. Clenched my eyes shut and screamed. And the demon was gone. I was left in silence. I turned around slowly. I was greeted by the room as it was when I entered. Just a chair and a lamp. I couldn't believe it, but I didn't have time to. I turned back to the 7 and jumped back slightly. What I saw was a door. Plain as can be. Just like any other door you'd see in a house. Even in your own house. Even in your bedroom. It wasn't the one I had scratched in, but a regular door. A large 7 on it. My whole body was shaking. It took me a while to turn the knob. I just stood there for a while, staring at the door. I couldn't stay in room 6. I couldn't. But if this was only room 6, I couldn't even imagine what 7 had in store. I must have stood there for an hour. 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. Endlessly. Just staring at the 7. Finally, with a deep breath, I twisted the knob and opened the door to room 7. I stumbled through the floor, mentally exhausted and physically weak. The door behind me closed and I realized where I was. I was outside. Not outside like room 5, but actually outside. My eyes stung. I wanted to cry. I fell to my knees and tried, but I couldn't. I was finally out of that hell. I didn't even care about that stupid prize that was promised. I turned and saw that the door I just went through was the entrance. I walked to my car and drove home, thinking of how nice the shower sounded. Maybe even a nice cup of coffee. As soon as I pulled up to my house, I felt uneasy. The joy of leaving No End House had faded, and dread was slowly building in my stomach, filling my gut like cement into a water balloon, threatening to burst. I shook it off as residual from the house and made my way to the front door, keys in hand, just ready to forget all of this. I entered and immediately went up to my room. There, my cat, on my bed was my cat, Baskerville. It was the first living thing I had seen all night, and I reached to pet him. He hissed and swiped at my hand. I recoiled in shock, and he had never acted like that. I thought, whatever, he's an old cat, it doesn't matter. I jumped in the shower and got ready for what I was expecting to be a sleepless night, tossing and turning in my bed, just trying my best to forget the damn house. After my shower, I went to the kitchen to make myself something to eat. I was
Hello,
famished
relative.
after being in there for so long. I descended the stairs and turned into the family room. What I saw would be forever burned into my mind, however. My parents were lying on the ground, unclothed and naked and covered in blood. They were mutilated to mere unidentifiable states. Their limbs were removed and placed next to their bodies, and their heads were placed on their chests facing me. The most unsettling part was their expressions. They were smiling, as though they were happy to see me. I vomited and sobbed there in the family room. I didn't know what had happened. They didn't even live with me at the time. How could this happen? I was a mess. And then I saw it. A door that was never there before. A door with a large 8 scrawled on it in blood. I was still in the house. I was standing in my family room, but I was in room 7. Faces of my butchered parents smiled wider as I realized this. They weren't my parents, they couldn't be, but they looked exactly like them. The door marked 8 was across the room, behind the mutilated bodies in front of me. I knew, deep down inside, dread filling every molecule of my very existence, that I had to move on. But at that moment, I gave up. Smiling faces tore into my mind. They grounded me where I stood. I vomited again and nearly collapsed, head spinning wildly. And then the hum returned. It was louder than ever, and it filled the house, shook the walls, rattled my eyes and my sockets, made my brain throb deeply. The hum compelled me to walk, urging me forward like some twisted siren call, baiting me with whatever horrors lie behind the door. I began to walk slowly, making my way closer to the door and the bodies. Barely stand, let alone walk. The closer I got to my parents, the closer I came, just ending it all. The walls were now shaking so hard it seemed as though they were going to crumble, but still the faces smiled at me. As I inched closer, their eyes followed me. I was now between the two bodies, just feet away from the door. And the dismembered hands clawed their way across the carpet towards me. All the while, the faces continued to stare. New terror washed over me, and I walked faster. I didn't want to hear them speak. I didn't want the voices to match those of my parents. They began to open their mouths, and the hands were inches from my feet. In a dash of desperation, I lunged toward the door and threw it open, slammed it behind me. Room 8. I was done. I was done. Absolutely done. After what I had just experienced, I knew there wasn't anything else in this fucking house could throw at me that I couldn't live through. There was nothing short of the fires of hell that I wasn't ready for. Unfortunately, I underestimated the abilities of the No-End house. Unfortunately, things got more disturbing, more terrifying, and more unspeakable in Room 8. I still have trouble believing what I saw in Room 8. Again, the room was another carbon copy of the rooms 3 and 6, but sitting in the usually empty chair was a man. After a few seconds of disbelief, my mind finally accepted the fact that the man sitting in the chair was me. Not someone who looked like me. Not someone dressed up to be me. Not someone wearing a mask of my face. It was me. It was David Williams. I walked closer. I had to get a better look, even though I was sure of it. He looked up at me, and I noticed tears in his eyes. Please. Please don't do it. Please don't hurt me. What? I asked. Who are you? I'm not going to hurt you. Yes, you are. He was sobbing now. You're going to hurt me. I don't want you to. He sat in the chair with his legs up and began rocking back and forth. It was actually pretty pathetic looking, especially since he was me. Identical in every way. Every detail, every scar, mark on my face, everything. Listen, who are you? I was only a few feet from my doppelganger. It was the weirdest experience yet. Standing there talking to myself. I wasn't scared, but I would be soon. Why are you? You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. If you want to leave, you're going to hurt me. But why are you saying this? Just calm down, alright? Well, let's try and figure this. And then I saw it. But David sitting down was wearing the same clothes as me. Except for a small embroidered the number 9. You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. Please, please, don't do it. Don't hurt me. You're going to hurt me. My eyes didn't leave the small number on his chest. I knew exactly what it was. The first few doors were plain and simple. But after a while, they all got a little more ambiguous. 7 was scratched into the wall, but by my own hands. 8 was marked in blood above the bodies of my parents, but 9... This person had the number 9 on them. A living person. Or still, it was on a person that looked exactly like me. David, I had to ask. Yes. You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. He continued to sob and rock back and forth, hands shaking, lips quivering. I answered to David. He really was me. Right down to the voice. That 9. That fucking 9. I paced around for minutes while he sobbed in his chair. The room had no door, and similarly to room 6, the door I came through was gone. For some reason, I assumed that scratching would get me nowhere this time. I studied the walls, the floor, even around the chair, sticking my head underneath and seeing if anything was below. Unfortunately, there was. Below the chair, laying there, like a red herring, like something just sticking out in a dream that shouldn't be there. It was a knife. Attached to a tag by the handle that read, "To David, from management." The feeling in my stomach as I read that tag was something sinister. I wanted to throw up. The last thing I wanted was to remove that knife out of the chair. The other David was still sobbing uncontrollably. My mind was spinning into an attic of unanswerable questions. Who put this here, and how did they get my name? Not to mention the fact that as I knelt on the cold wood floor, I also sat in that chair, sobbing in protest of being hurt by myself. It was all too much to process. I just wanted to be done with this. I wanted to wake up and just realize it was a bad dream. Call my parents, tell them I love them, hear them speak to me. I knew this house wasn't going to let me go. The house, the management had been playing with me this whole fucking time. My thoughts, for some reason, turned to Peter, whether or not he got this far. If he did, if he met another Peter Terry, sobbing in this very chair, rocking back and forth. I shook those thoughts out of my head. It didn't matter. With trembling hands, I took the knife from under the chair, and immediately, the other David went quiet. David, he said in my voice. What do you think you're going to do? I lifted myself from the ground, clenched the knife in my hand. I am going to get out of here. David was still sitting in the chair, though he was very, almost terrifyingly calm now. He looked up at me with a slight grin. I couldn't tell if he was going to laugh or strangle me. Slowly, he got up from the chair and stood, facing me. It was uncanny. His height and even the way he stood matched mine. I felt the rubber hilt of the knife in my hand and gripped it tighter. I didn't know what I was planning on doing, but I had a feeling I was going to need it.
Now,
His voice was slightly deeper than my own.
I'm going to hurt you.
I'm going to hurt you, and I'm going to keep you here. I didn't respond. I lunged and tackled him straight to the ground. I mounted him and looked down, knife poised and ready. He looked up at me, terrified. It was like I was looking in a mirror. Then the hum returned, low and distant, though I still felt it deep, deep inside of my body, the very pit of my chest. David looked up at me as I looked down at myself. The hum was getting louder, and I felt something inside me snap. With one motion, I slammed the knife into the patch on his chest and ripped down. Blackness fell into the room. Suddenly, I was falling endlessly through a sea of inky black nothingness. Falling for ages and ages, time unending, everything blending together. I don't know how long I was there. The darkness around me was like nothing I had experienced up to that point. Room 4 was dark, but it didn't come even remotely close to what was completely engulfing me. I wasn't even sure if I was falling after a while. I felt weightless, covered in darkness. And then a deep sadness came over me. I felt lost, depressed, and suicidal. The sight of my parents entered my mind. God, I knew it wasn't real, but I had seen it. And the mind has trouble differentiating between what is real and what isn't. Fact and fantasy. Sadness only deepened. I was in room 9 for what seemed like days, weeks, fucking decades. The final room. And that's exactly what it was. The end. No End House had an end, and I had reached it. And at that moment, I gave up. I knew I would be in that in-between state forever, accompanied by nothing but darkness. Not even the hum was there to keep me sane. I had lost all senses. I couldn't feel myself, couldn't hear anything. Sight was completely useless here. I searched for a taste in my mouth and found nothing. Felt disembodied and completely lost. I knew where I was. This was hell. Room 9 was hell. And then it happened. A light. One of those stereotypical lights at the end of the tunnel. I felt ground come up from below me, and I was standing. After a moment or two, gathering my thoughts and senses, I slowly walked toward that light. As I approached the light, it took form as a vertical slit on the side of an unmarked door. I slowly walked through the door and found myself back where I started. The lobby of No End House. It was exactly how I left it. Still empty, still decorated with those childish Halloween decorations. After everything that had happened that night, I was still wary of where I was. After a few moments of normalcy, I looked around the place to find anything different, anything out of place, anything. On the desk was a plain white envelope, my name handwritten on it. Immensely curious, yet obviously still cautious, I mustered up the courage to open the envelope. Inside was a letter, again, handwritten. David Williams, congratulations! You have made it to the end of No End House. Please accept this prize as a token of great achievement. Yours forever, Management. With the letter were 5 $100 bills. I couldn't stop laughing. I laughed for what seemed like hours. I laughed as I walked out to my car. I laughed as I drove home. I laughed as I pulled into my driveway. I laughed as I opened my front door to my house, and I laughed as I saw the small 10 etched into the wood. And that was No End House. One of my absolute favorite stories ever.
It's a
God,
funny
what
little
a
ride.
fucking... Funny is not even close to cutting it, bro. God damn.
I like that
I
it was
would-
like, what, 8 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically a precursor to basically like these liminal areas that people now have where the house is bigger than what it actually is. But what the house actually is not even a house.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just endless torment, bro.
Hello, relative. Hello,
God,
Kimmy.
honestly, Hello, everyone. Oh man, honestly, I really put myself into that performance. I thought it was great. Oh boy. Oh man, I love that story though. It does a wonderful job of just filling you with dread. Like there's no way bro is leaving, and sure enough, bro didn't leave. He's stuck in No End House forever. Just endless fucking torment for end of time, gang.
Yeah.
It's really
Purgatory.
a fantastic story. I would absolutely kill to see someone adapt that shit into like an actual feature-length film. I know I forget what it is. Fucking there was a series. It was like a series that did an episode on No End House. I forget what it is specifically, but I've been told it's quite good.
The short film for No End House that was released in 2018. Are you talking about that?
I think so. Fucking, it was like
Or
it
is
was
it-
like produced under like
Is it
a
the TV series called Channel Zero
company. Channel Zero, that's the one. That's
yeah.
the one. Yeah.
with
Channel
Margaret and
Zero.
Jules
Love.
overhearing about the No End House?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
then there's the actual No End House short 2018 film with actually David. It's straight through the proper story. It has 5.6 review out of 10.
Yep.
Doesn't seem to be too bad.
Oh boy, I'm not gonna lie there. It worked like perfectly to my benefit, but like when I had to do one of those bits where I was gagging, like I was about to throw up, I had like some fucking spit stuck in like my throat somewhere, and I was about to like start coughing.
Oh god.
But I think I managed to pull that off pretty nicely.
Heck yeah. You at least did it.
Yeah.
You did it. Yeah.
I did! Alright. Okay, let's segue on into the next story. This one is a little bit shorter, but it will be very heavily into voice acting, so I'm very excited for that one. This was written 14 fucking years ago!
14 years?
This
Oh
might
boy.
be-
The OG stuff.
If I hadn't read anything from H.P. Lovecraft yet, this would be the oldest story, I think, on the fucking show so far. And it is a fantastic fucking story. I highly recommend, because the way I fucking heard about the story was from the Dead Meat podcast. It was, an episode a long-ass time ago where, the host and his, now wife, James and Chelsea, read, like, a whole bunch of, like, creepypastas just for, like, Halloween, I believe. It's quite nice. They also got some other really good stories in there.
Heck yeah.
Alright. This is the disappearance of Ashley, Kansas. Sometime during the night of August 16th, 1952, the town of Ashley, Kansas ceased to exist. At 3:28 a.m. on August 17th, 1952, a magnitude 7.9 earthquake was measured by the Jesus Christ, sorry, by the United States Geological Survey. The earthquake itself was felt throughout the state and most of the Midwest. The epicenter was determined to be directly under the city of Ashley, Kansas. When state law enforcement arrived at what should have been the outskirts of the farming community, they found a smoldering, burning fissure in the earth, measuring about 1,000 yards in length and approximately 500 yards in width. The depth of the fissure was never determined. After 12 days, the statewide and local search for the missing 679 residents of Ashley, Kansas was called off by the Kansas state government at 9:15 p.m. on the night of August 29th, 1952. All 679 residents were assumed to be dead. At 2:27 a.m. on August 30th, 1952, another magnitude 7.5 earthquake was measured by the United States Geological Survey. The epicenter was situated under what used to be the location of Ashley, Kansas. When law enforcement investigated at 5:32 a.m., they reported that the fissure in the earth had mysteriously closed. In the 8 days leading up to the disappearance of the town and its 679 residents, bizarre and unexplainable events were reported by dozens of residents in Ashley, Kansas, and law enforcement from the surrounding area. On the evening of August 8th, 1952, at 7:13 p.m., a resident by the name of Gabriel Jonathan reported a strange sight in the sky above Ashley. The town itself, having no official branch of law enforcement, called into the police station of the neighboring town of Hayes. Gabriel reported what appeared to be, quote, a, quote, small black opening in the sky. Within the next 15 minutes, the Hayes police station became overwhelmed with dozens of phone calls, all reporting the same phenomenon. The phenomenon was never reported by any neighboring communities. A decision was made to send a trooper to Ashley to investigate the matter the following morning. At 7:54 a.m. on the morning of August 9th, 1952, Hayes police officer Alan Mace radioed the Hayes police station. He reported that despite following the one road leading into Ashley, he had become lost. According to his report, the road, quote, continued along its normal path, but somehow ended up back in Hayes. Officer Mace went on to add that the road never curved or bent in any direction. At 9:15 a.m., 7 of the town's 10 police cars were sent to investigate the situation. And all members of the team came to the same conclusion. The only road leading into Ashley stopped leading into Ashley, but instead led straight back to Hayes. Phone calls continued to pour into the Hayes police station, all reporting that the black opening in the sky continued to grow in size. All callers were advised to remain inside and to not travel outside unless absolutely necessary. At 8:17 p.m., Mrs. Elaine Cantor reported her neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Milton, and their 2 children, Jeffrey and Brooke, missing. According to Mrs. Cantor's phone call, the Miltons attempted to leave town in their family car earlier in the evening. They never returned. Law enforcement officials from Hayes never reported the car or individuals coming up the one-way road. At 7:38 p.m., on the morning of August 10th, 1952, phone calls from Ashley into the Hayes police station reported that the town was in total darkness. The sun had never risen. At 10:15 a.m., at the request of Hayes law enforcement, a helicopter from Topeka, Kansas, flew over the region in which Ashley, Kansas stood. The town was never observed from the air. At 12:43 p.m. on the afternoon of August 11th, 1952, Miss Phoebe Danielewski called into the Hayes police station. She reported that her daughter Erica had begun to have conversations with her father, who reportedly had died 3 years prior in a drunk driving accident. To add to her concern, Ms. Danielewski reported that Erica was attempting to go outside into the dark to, quote-unquote, join them. Over the course of the next 12 hours, a reported 329 calls were placed into the Hayes police station, all describing similar phenomenon with children of the town. The following morning of August 12th, 1952, the situation became dire. During the middle of the night, all 217 children in the town of Ashley, Kansas, simultaneously disappeared. A reported 421 calls were placed into the Hayes Police Department. Unable to be of any useful assistance, Hayes law enforcement instructed all callers to remain inside to avoid any and all attempts to find the missing children. At 5:19 p.m. on the evening of August 13th, 1952, Ashley elderly man Scott Luntz reported a growing distant fire to the south. According to his description, the fire seemed to turn the distant black into, quote, bright red and orange, seemed to extend high into the sky. Throughout the rest of the day, calls continued in, stating that the fire, in addition to moving north, now seemed to, quote, come out of the black sky. No fire was ever witnessed by any of the neighboring communities or law enforcement officials. The reports continued until 12:09 a.m. on the morning of August 14th, 1952. The last phone call, placed by a Mr. Benjamin Endicott, reported that the fire in the sky had grown so intense that it began to appear as daytime over the town. The call ended abruptly. From the phone call placed by Benjamin Sherman Endicott. Hold on. Wait. Yeah, I see something. It's to the south. It looks like... End phone call. The next phone call wouldn't be placed until the following evening. The following is the entire transcript of the final phone call to be received by the Hayes Police Department out of the town of Ashley, Kansas. It was placed at 9:46 p.m. on the evening of August 15th, 1952. In this recorded phone call, the officer on duty is Officer Peter Welsh. The caller has been identified as Miss April Foster. Begin phone call. Hayes Police Department. Hello? Yes, hello? Ma'am, who am I speaking with? My name is April. April Foster. Please, sir, please help me. What is happening, ma'am? Last night they came back. Ma'am, I'm gonna need you to... Last night they came back! Ma'am, I'm gonna need you to calm down and speak clearly. What happened? Who came back? Everyone. Everyone? They all came in the fire. What do you mean, everyone? My son. I saw my son last night. He was walking. He was walking down the street. He was burned. Jesus Christ, he was burned! Ma'am, he died last year. I raised him since he was a baby. It was just me and him. I told him to watch for cars when he rode his bike, but he would never listen. Ma'am, what you're saying isn't making any sense. You said everyone came back? Are you fucking listening to me? Everyone! Everyone came back! Everyone who died or went missing, they're back and they're looking for us! He said, Mommy, I'm okay now. See, I can walk again. Where are you, Mommy? I want to see you. Ma'am, where are you now? Are you safe? I'm hiding, just like everyone else. We saw them coming through the field, and some people opened their doors for them. God, the screaming! I don't know what happened to them, but their houses caught fire and they caved in. I have my curtains drawn. I'm hiding in the closet right now, and... Ma'am? Ma'am, is everything alright? Are you okay? Ma'am? Oh my god. Ma'am? Something just came in. Oh my god. Ma'am, stay as quiet as you can. Don't make a sound. Mommy? He came inside. Stay absolutely still. Don't leave.
Mommy, where are you hiding?
Stay quiet.
I found you, Mommy!
Ma'am? Ma'am! End phone call. The following morning, at 6:55 a.m., the law enforcement officials of the Hayes Police Department arrived at the location of Ashley, Kansas. A smoldering, burning fissure in the earth was all that remained. And that was the disappearance of Ashley, Kansas. Oof. What a creepy, almost kind of Stephen King-esque sort of story, if I'd say so myself.
I like that style of story because it's like you're following the reports and everything else of like what's happening. I enjoy that more than just having the straight narrative of somebody who's just documenting everything, but having these like small reports coming in and like you just get tiny tidbits of what's going on there.
Exactly.
And-
If we had the the budget for it, because there was like sounds of footsteps and like glass breaking and shit like that, then that would have been quite nice.
Yeah, and like the story is you have the entire town, it exists there and everything else. There's one road that apparently leads to it and leads out. Only one road, and somehow it doesn't lead there anymore, but leads back. And at first it
Yeah,
was,
exactly.
what was it? A fissure happened because of an earthquake, and then the town disappeared, and there was just a big ass like crack in the earth. And then the next day,
Yeah,
another fissure,
yeah, basically.
earthquake happens, and it closes up. Then they were talking about how the sky opened, like there was a black thing from the town. Does that mean the town was under the ground and they saw the like ground opening again and then closing as it sunk further and further down?
Maybe.
Because if they
Maybe.
said
I'd
like
like to think.
if there was a fire, that sounds like they reached the core of the earth.
Personally, I like to think that like something, from somewhere, maybe like something supernatural or like some kind of like alien shit, fucking came down over the town, like encircled it, and like dug up underneath it, causing the fissure, and then just took it away. And maybe the fire in the sky that they were seeing was maybe like a star or some shit or something in it. But I do like the theory that it might have been like the core of the earth, like they were like underground or something like that.
Yeah, because that's what it sounded like, but we never got any, like, they didn't tell if there was daytime or anything else when they were calling. They were always calling at, what was it, at very early morning or nighttime.
Yeah, basically.
If I listened correctly to the timestamps of every single call.
It's a very interesting, very cool story, especially because here in America, for not even just you, Sleep, but like other Europeans in the chat, lots of strange things happen out in the Midwest, like in Kansas, which is about like roughly about the center of the U.S. Lots of strange shit happens out there. Because
yeah, and it's
there
all
is just
the weird stories.
swaths of farmland.
Yeah, it's the weird
It's
stories
just
you have, like
swaths
the
of-
if you go to like the
farms everywhere.
like Mexico area, you have the fucking Chupacabra legends and everything else. I said legends almost. What the fuck is wrong with me? You have
Lots
Mothman
of
from
things.
where the fuck was Mothman again?
Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Yeah, in West Virginia. You had the Mad Gasser incident as well that happened at one point, which was a mass hysteria of a town thinking that they were getting gassed by something. And everybody there was reporting the same thing, but nobody ever found anything. There was like no gas observed, nothing, but everybody was reporting the same thing happening. And they all reported a black-dressed man in a gas mask going around with a cape.
Yeah, I love stories of just like odd happenings. Just like with no rhyme or reason.
And the random
It's so cool.
disappearances of like hikers, campers, like those can be very easily like, oh, just wild animal, or they fell into a sinkhole or something like this. But when it's from a little town that's a very close-knit one, and it's just they disappeared from the room and there was no sign of them leaving or anything. That's what's like gets very creepy. That's why I love the forest ranger stuff,
Exactly.
because oftentimes they're the ones who have to go searching.
Yeah, and just it's people. I get people telling me all the time, like, "Man, nothing can there's no way shit like that actually fucking happens." Yes, it does. Yes,
You
it
can
fucking
actually
does.
go and look up the
You
public
really-
archives of all the disappearances.
You really don't think that in like a place where there's like little to no cell service, little to no people, and little to no like actual like established civilization, you don't think some weird shit will fucking happen?
Yeah,
Of course it will, dude.
You have bunch of different types of people. You have the hillbillies who might do whatever the heck they do. You have literally swamp folk. You have people who are doomsday preppers. You have the fucking druggies. You have roaming groups of people who have nothing to their name and don't legally exist in any way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
You don't know what's happening. As long as they're just gone from the fucking grid, you don't know what the hell's going on. And then when you happen to spot them once, or they think that you've spotted them, they'll do everything to erase their existence.
Exactly, dude.
It's scary. The most terrifying thing is people.
Absolutely, absolutely, dude. Fucking. Oh boy, what a great story though. All right, I'm gonna end this off with just some more handfuls of fucking scary stories, like short scary stories from the r/scary stories Reddit. Yippee! All right. Let's see here.
Bangers, bongers.
Alright, okay. This one is called Some Holes Can't Be Filled. The waiting room shut up. The waiting room chair was smooth, solid, comfortably whole. Traced my thumb over its surface, looking for imperfection, divots, abrasions, and found a hole. My stomach churned. Trypophobia wasn't just a quirk. For me, holes were malice incarnate. Clusters of emptiness beckoning, mocking. My father's mouth that once devoured my laughter, my honesty, my safety. I knew the drill at the dentist's office. Sign in, answer questions, sit, wait. But all I saw were holes. Magazine pictures, and the vents above, even in the pattern of the tile floor. They spun into one another, fractals of dread that made my skin crawl. The assistant called my name. Her voice rippled somewhere distant, like a hole in time swallowing sound. I stood, swaying a bit, as though the air itself had holes, wanted to pull me inside. In the chair, she asked me to open wide. I did. I so often tried to open myself to life that way. Except here, every opening felt like loss. The dentist leaned in, peering into my mouth, as though into a cave. In a sense, that's what it had become. A cave of holes, dark pockets infested with rot. Between each tooth was a crater, blackened, uninviting. Some slight, some deep, all unavoidable. Lots of decay, he said, not in a clinical tone, in a tone of disappointment. I could feel it like pressure. The way my father used to scold me for not being enough, not being refined, not being whole. I flinched. Anxiety? He said kindly. Yes. I didn't say. Instead, I trembled. He pointed to the first, small hole, pit of enamel gone. This one we can fix quickly. Like my mother, dead from childbirth. A hole in my mouth, he offered to fill it. It should have been a relief. Instead, my eyes rose to the ceiling, where the vet holes arranged themselves into patterns too familiar. Just a tiny one, he said. Tiny, like childhood memories buried in deep, dark closets. Tiny like the spaces between the memories and the truth. I felt sweat bead where the air kissed my skin. My father's voice, not heard for years, echoed in hollow laughter. Patch the holes, and you'll be whole. The holes weren't emptiness that you can patch. Holes are history. He worked methodically, scraping away decay, filling caverns with smooth, white resin. Each click of the instrument sounded like a strike against my ribs. hollowing my breath out of me. Almost done? I asked. And then he probed the last one, the worst one. Wider, rounded, cratered deeper than the others. I could feel every reverberation. This one, he paused, will take time. My heart thudded. My breath caught though the room itself had tightened around me. I knew that hole. I knew its depth. I recognized its shape on my tongue. That cavity wasn't just decay. That cavity was him. My father. Wide-mouthed with rage. Hollering at me for being small, being inadequate, for needing affection he never furnished. That bruised love was a cavity that never healed. I carried it like an abscess, like a crater in the heart of every moment I wanted to trust. A hole that, despite all attempts at filling, remained. I felt the dentist's voice shrink, like it was too distant to be real. I need your permission to proceed. Permission for a drill to pierce deeper into that scar. A drill to scrape what remained of me that wasn't rubble. Restore this tooth, repair the decay, fix the hole, remove him. But what if the hole is the truth? I breathed, and the air tasted of salt. Old salt. Tears I swore I'd bottled years ago. I'm not ready, I said. He blinked. You said you were ready? He said gently. I shook. It's too deep. It was bigger. Not because of rot alone. Because it was the hole that left when he stopped loving me, but never left me. Because every time I opened my mouth to speak, to ask, to receive love, I felt his oppression hit me again. Like it never left. I stood up from the chair. I can't, I whispered. The dentist nodded. Not with judgment, with a sadness that felt like an echo. The room seemed to exhale. Holes on the ceiling vents blurred. Patterns shifted. I walked out into the sunlight, each breath a dent into the sky. Some holes can be filled, but some can only be witnessed. And some, the ones carved by love you never had, never leave. That was Some Holes Can't Be Filled.
That was really fucking
Man, that
weird.
that was really fucking, like, dark. Like, that was, like, moodily dark. That was very, like, almost depressing.
For me, it
Good
was
lord.
just weird and felt like overforced. It felt like those poems that we had, like, in the fucking Last Travel Agency episode, where it felt like it was trying too
Oh,
hard.
boy, yeah.
It felt weird. I was gonna make a Silent Hill joke. There was a hole here,
Oh,
but it's
boy.
gone.
Real nice. Yeah. Hold on, I gotta fucking... Of course, this happens right as I'm fucking doing shit. I have to let my cat in or else she's gonna keep bitching.
Meow.
She
It
always
felt
picks the
weird. I
most
was thinking, like,
inconvenient times.
Some holes can't be. I was thinking like it was gonna be like something where the dude just has like the massive trypophobia fear, but then he's like keeps finding like new holes in the freaking like home where he lives or something like that. But no, it's fucking dentist stuff, and then he starts making everything about his family and his past, and I was like, huh?
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I personally kind of relate a little bit because I too had very big issues with my teeth. I'm not gonna get too into it, but like I could kind of say that it was a bit because I didn't have a very good relationship with my mother. But that's a bit like neither here nor there.
Yeah,
You know
it's
what I'm saying? I eventually
yeah.
got like my teeth a bit fixed. But I can kind of see what the author was kind of going for.
Kinda. It's just very.
bye.
It's a very niche story. Very hard to relate. Oh well, they tried their best.
Alright. It's alright. Alright, let's see here. Try to find some good ones. Alright, let's try this one. This one is called At 10 o'clock, the sky opened its eye. Dr. Sanders? Dr. Sanders? Huh? Dr. Sanders was almost asleep, the phone in his hand, still trying to dial his daughter's number. The student assistant placed a report on the table. Dr. Sanders was about to scold him about the formatting, but stopped when he saw the data. Again? Did you calibrate the machine correctly? You did, Dr. Sanders. Dr. Sanders got up from his chair and rushed to the control room. The other student assistant was sitting at the machine, tapping his leg nervously. It's still going on. Dr. Sanders didn't listen, pushed the assistant's chair away and gazed at the indicator needle. No, I must have calibrated it wrong. He started the recalibration. The student had fully crumpled up the report in his hands, but the indicator needle jumped right back to where it was before. I wanted to recalibrate the device again, but then, like magic, vacuum oscillation returned to normal. How long since it first passed the threshold? Dr. Sanders asked. The student assistant unwrapped the crumpled paper. 35 minutes, Doctor. The background vacuum oscillations shouldn't sustain much longer. One of the assistants started sobbing softly. Prophecy is true, isn't it? He said through sobs. We're not the ones to answer that, Dr. Sanders said calmly. Go home, said the doctor. But we have 4 more hours. Just go home. The one holding the paper took his crying friend, and they both walked out. Dr. Sanders printed the report again. The students made a mistake. It was actually 45 minutes. He pulled his phone out and dialed his daughter's number, but it went straight to voicemail again. Dr. Sanders tried to hold back tears. He stared at the photo of him, his wife, and his daughter. You look like you haven't slept in days, Dr. Sanders, the head director said. Dr. Sanders didn't answer. This is Mr. Green. He's from the Counter-Extremism Agency. I see you got a chart for us, Dr. Sanders. Yes. We measured heightened vacuum oscillations again. Last night it lasted for 45 minutes. What level did the measurements reach? Even higher than last night. Okay. So the vacuum oscillations went beyond the limit, and it lasted for 45 minutes. Was anyone else present? The director asked Dr. Sanders. Yes, 2 medical students. Do you think they're aware of the cult's messages? The director asked. Everyone is, Mr. Director. Please, give me their names. We'll make sure this doesn't get out. You are to resume your work per usual. But, Mr. Director, what about the data? We need to investigate this even if the cult is wrong. Even. Dr. Sanders, don't tell me you believe a large eye will appear in the sky. No, I don't. Dr. Sanders. Mr. Green interrupted him. I understand your fears, but I don't think you are aware of the gravity of this situation. The cult's teachings have been spreading like wildfire. Multiple cities have been taken over. I'm sure you've heard what they do to academics, Mr. Green said quietly. He pulled a photo out of his briefcase and pushed it over the table. A man was impaled on a stick in front of a statue of an eye. Around it were the cult followers wearing long, dark capes. Dr. Sanders swallowed and looked back at Mr. Green.
Once we get them under control, we will divert all finances to this issue. For now, please try to ignore it.
Mr. Green and the director got up and left. Dr. Sanders sat in his chair for a while, staring at the numbers. That night, he could barely focus on his work. The machine was outputting the usual readings, but then out of nowhere, the indicator needle shot up to its highest possible measure. He wrote down the time on a piece of paper and pulled out his phone, dialing his daughter's number. Dad?
Sophie? Sophie!
Dr. Sanders screamed. Dad, you need to stop calling me. We already talked about this.
Sophie, listen, I need to tell you something.
No, you don't need to tell me anything. You know what my church thinks of people like you. I could be in real danger if they find out you're my dad.
But, Sophie!
The line went dead. Dr. Sanders put his head on the table, sobbing profusely. Soon, he cried himself to sleep. A loud bang woke him up. The clock said 9:55 p.m. 55 minutes had passed by now. Dr. Sanders walked to the window and looked out. He almost jumped back in fear. Outside, a mob of people wearing long, dark capes was walking down the street. A few have already reached the Institute's door. Dr. Sanders ran back to the control room. Out of the window, he could see the followers chasing his colleagues, brutally stabbing anyone they could get their hands on. Dr. Sanders put the chair against the doorknob. Soon, footsteps echoed in the staircase. The followers began banging down the door. The chair stood no chance, and a hand soon came through the doorway. Dr. Sanders didn't wait. He quickly opened the window and climbed up onto the roof. His heart was beating faster than it ever had. The cult followers had already climbed up the roof behind him. They were coming closer. Dr. Sanders could almost feel their breath on his neck. Then a strong wave of energy flew through the air. Everyone was thrown back. A dark melody blasted through the wind. The followers were knocked off of were taking off their capes, kneeling on the ground, putting their hands together in prayer. The sky began to rupture until a bright blue iris appeared, moving around the dark void that opened. Dr. Sanders pulled out his phone, staring at his lock screen again, thinking about where Sophie and his wife were now. Everything that I looked at evaporated into nothingness. And soon even Dr. Sanders was gone. The clock showed 10. A new record high of vacuum oscillations. And that was at 10 o'clock. Sky opened its eye. What a weird story. I like that one.
One of those cult apocalypse stories.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like how it's kind of implied that the daughter is a part of the cult, you know?
Yeah, because it's the way that she said the fucking thing that if they found out, then things could be bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Like she was trying to protect them, and then at the same time, the government employees or whoever the fuck showed up, they seemed to know what was happening.
Yeah, exactly. I quite like it. Alright. This last one is called Nothing Personal. The moon shone brightly through the clouds as two silhouettes shovels clanked and scuffled against the dirt. It was still and silent for now, far more peaceful since the screaming had ceased. It was far from a noble job, Blink knew, but it paid the bills. More than that, it kept him and his family safe. The bakery no longer got broken into. Tony rarely got called the home phone anymore. Home phone. What a luxury it was. Phone boxes be damned. So what if he had to bury a few bodies? It was an arrangement his father-in-law, Lawrence, had procured for the business. Only a few years before Blake had married his daughter. A necessary evil for small peace of mind. After Lawrence had lost Beth in an armed robbery, there was no price too high. Blake never committed the act himself, and for a long time, that was enough to let his soul rest. His soul may rest one day, but his body often could not. The screams haunted him, even late at night in bed with his wife, echoing through memory and imagination. Worse still were the nights when wails sounded eerily familiar. Tonight was like any other in the past 3 years. Someone had wronged another, or it owed too much. They were driven out to the desert by people unrelated to the dispute, blind to the faces they captured. Then the man, almost always a man, occasionally a woman, once he could have sworn it was almost a child, was dragged from the car, head taped and bagged, handed off to him and another man. It was understood that Blake would only do the menial work of disposal, never the act of violence. Tonight, though, he worked with someone he had before. Marcus, a man who reveled in violence and spoke of it with such delight that it made Blake sick. Marcus bragged about every job he had done, detailing the gruesome ways he had destroyed people. Half an hour ago, when Blake had crouched in the sand, emptying his stomach as Marcus laughed. The smell, memory of the entrails and organs caused him to still feel the nausea clutch at his gut. And yet, 3 years of this, night after night after night, had built walls in him. Vomiting had passed and was rare. The initial shock dulled, replaced by a clinical, numb efficiency. He dug the hole. He finished the labor without a thought. Worst of all, he'd help carry the body when it was near the end. His own survival, his family's safety, and the rules of the arrangement had become enough. He did not feel heroic. He did not feel guilty. He simply did it. He glanced at the corpse, then away. Loafers, pressed khakis. It was enough to remind him he was still holding on to the human labels. But they were only labels now. Names, faces, screams were all routine. Just things to handle before going home. He had grown accustomed to this. The horror, a rare burden, background noise to his life. A life very carefully managed. He often wondered what wrong could justify such reckoning. Owed money? Some crime? Seemed impossible. On top of the work itself, the bakery paid for protection, sometimes late, leaving Blake to reckon the interest paid was his own suffering. Thought of the film Pulp Fiction. Marcellus Wallace throwing Tony Rocky Horror out of a window for a foot rub. Egregious, yes, but a silly gangster story in a Tarantino movie. He chuckled at the absurdity of it. He was living a Tarantino scene himself. Perhaps Cinema 5 would see him again this weekend. Tonight, as always, came the final chore. Moving the corpse. Blake dropped the shovel and approached the remains with steady hands. "Heads or tails, Blakey boy?" Marcus joked. Blake turned with a stone face, signaling that joking would not survive tonight. "Grab his feet," he said. But as they approached, Blake noticed the bag over the man's head had been ripped. Even in the darkness, he knew he would see this one's face. Suddenly, the it became a he, and this one became loved one. The clinical walls snapped, every ritual, every forced desensitization, every night spent numbing himself, all crushed down in a single frozen instant. This was not a stranger. This was Lawrence, his father-in-law, the man who had orchestrated it all, whose grief and vengeance had become Blake's daily work. Oh God. Lawrence. No. And then came the shot. Blake hit the ground, groping at his head and face, rolling to see the source. He barely registered the pain, only the surreal collapse of everything once normalized. The horror that had been someone else's problem, someone else's scream, was now his own. Marcus stood above him, calm, almost cheerful, as Blake's numb terror registered. As vision and sound slowly started becoming out of reach, he heard Marcus start to speak. Nothing personal, buddy. It's just business. That was nothing personal. I quite like that. Very, very mob-esque. I like it a lot.
Yeah, good old mob story.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with a good old mob story. It definitely does remind me of a Tarantino film.
Yeah, I've
Like,
always had a soft spot for like mob stories and everything else, especially when it goes into a direction that you wouldn't expect. Because the original mob story is always just, oh yeah, you have the family, it grows, and then somebody wants to get higher, and then somebody betrays, there's a mole, blah blah blah. But if it takes a whole different way, then it gets even more interesting.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was our time for tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. I cannot express anymore, every single fucking time, how much I appreciate y'all for attending these stories and allowing me to share my passion for scary stuff with you guys. It is truly, truly a blessing.
Heck yeah.
Now, next week I will be reading the story called I Am Blind. I'm not sure how many steps my staircase has. It's a very good thriller story. I will also
love
be
the title of it.
reading... Yeah, I know, right? Here, let me see how long this next story is. This other story is not too long. I will also read it. Damn, this is a long one.
Oh boy.
I'll find something. Don't worry, chat. I'll find another story for me to read for you guys. Oh no, wait. Okay. I got one. Let me see how far this one goes down. Yeah, okay. So for next week, I will read I'm Blind. I'm not sure how many steps my staircase has. And another story called My Dog Was Lost for 3 days. What Came Back Wasn't My Dog. Two very, very good no sleep stories. So stay tuned for that. Also, stay tuned for our travel agency episode next week. I'm very, very excited for that one too.
Yeah, it's gonna be a pain in the ass. Thanks, Ruby, for
Oh,
the
yeah?
fucking most difficult goddamn fucking world.
Fruites, yeah.
Bro, you think it
Fucking
would
hell.
be easy, but it's not. We'll talk about that a bit.
It's really not, because right now the only fruit-themed world that I can think of is that
Melansuika.
fucking melons. Yeah, Melansuika, yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah. Oh, boy.
all right.
Ugh.
We'll be
Wait,
ending the stream right about now. We're gonna go raid dealing. He's playing a game called Ball X Pit. What a fucking name!
What?
That's a weird fucking name. I'm looking at him, and it looks like a weird ass bullet hell thingamajiggy. I have no idea what the hell this is. It looks like a drug trip. And tomorrow I'll be back with God Eater 2. We'll get to start that and join the Blood Unit and see what the hell they're doing again. And I get to witness Romeo being a
Yay.
piece of shit.
Real
And
shit,
on the
gang.
weekend,
Yes.
we'll have more Rain World, and then next week we will start with Blue Resonance. No, not Blue Resonance. Blue Reflection. I keep fucking I screw up that name. We got Travel Agency, God Eater, Scary Stories, again from Zoms, and then back to Blue Reflection, unless people redeem games that they want me to play. Remember to use your brain with that, because if you redeem it and it's a game I cannot stream, or a game that I cannot get, then it's not gonna happen. Use your brain, please.
Mm-hmm. Please.
Yes, for now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Be sure to lock your doors and check your windows. And sleep tight, everybody.